if it was easy, if success was as easy as just following a checklist, then everyone would be successful. But it turns out there's a lot more to that.
And we cover it.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast. It has been a while since we've been with you, but we're really excited today. We're happy to be back with you and sharing our experiences and the experiences of our guests. So if you're new to this podcast, I want to give you a little bit of background before I introduce my wife. We started back in July of 2017. That's the same day that our third daughter was born. And we had produced over 100 episodes that have had over a bazillion listens. I guess we were going to figure that out, but we didn't actually look it up in time for this. But it's had a lot of listens, and we ended up taking a break. We took that break over the summer of 2018 so that we could really focus on our kids and moving to our new home and a bunch of other things. But if you're new to the podcast, we thought we would talk a little bit about ourselves, maybe reintroduce ourselves, and tell you a bit about us. So, Haley, you want to go?
Yeah, definitely. I am so excited to be on the podcast because if you've been around, I haven't done too much with it, but I will be around more now. So I'll start by telling you a bit about myself. I have a business degree from Pepperdine University in California. While I was there, I worked for a chiropractor, but didn't know much about it other than it helped my back at the time. When I graduated school, I moved back to Kansas City, took a couple years working in restaurants and the business side of a gourmet grocery store and all sorts of things. So, but I found my way back to chiropractic and started school, took one class at a time and decided it was the right career path for me. I was really excited about starting my own business. The whole way through, that was really one of my main goals. And while in school, I met Rich. We decided our two practices became one, and we opened up in Colorado. So I'll let him tell you a bit about himself, and then we'll continue with our path together.
So one of the things that she's leaving out is that when we first met, I mean, she had this business degree and, sort of tried different things before settling on coming back to chiropractic school and eventually opening a practice. But what it is that she had, one of the things I really liked when I first met about her is a real clarity and sense of why. And so, that period after college where people are, oh gosh, now I have this degree. I guess I need to go get a job. She knew enough to know that the cubicle life wasn't for her. And so I remember her telling me at the time that, she went to some interviews and she looked at things and thought, I'm going to go try to put on try on some different hats before I really commit to anything. And that's what led her to working in culinary school for a bit and then in restaurants and things like that, just trying things out. So the other thing she's leaving out is that her dad was in business, in a family-run business, and then helped in other businesses her whole life. So growing up, her dad was in the world of business, and I think, isn't that something that was always interesting, or that's what attracted you to business in the first place?
Yes, I wrote on my graduation, they wanted us to write what we'd be in 10 years, and I said CEO. And I had no idea what I'd be CEO of, but I just knew I wanted to run a business, and I loved the intricacies of business and marketing and sales and all of that stuff. So, and I also left out now that I worked for a chiropractor pretty much the whole way through getting my chiropractic degree, and we worked for a chiropractor after. I attended a lot of seminars with the chiropractor that I worked for. I also worked at the school. I worked at the school the whole time going through school. I worked in the undergrad office, managing, being their assistant.
Yeah, so she was doing things a lot smarter going through school than I was. She was only borrowing tuition money, and she was earning the rest through work study and things like that, which, was absolutely the smart way to do it compared to my not so smart way of doing it. But there's a whole lot that she brings to the table and that I saw early on when we first started dating, because my side of the story is a little different. So am a musician at heart and loved playing in bands and did that sort of thing for a long time. And we all know that there's really very little money in that, except for a very few people. But it got me a chance to get out in front of people, to develop a sense of what people want to hear, and the kind of taking the pulse of an audience and feeling like, oh, should I do this next or do that next? And then during the day, I did a bunch of different things, but one of the things I did was get into sales to put food on the table. And so I learned how to sell products and things like that, and services. I worked for AT&T. I worked for Lehman Brothers. I worked for U.S. Bank selling loans and things like that.
But your band was a business.
That's true. The band was a business. Yeah. I ran it pretty much myself and another person, and learned how to do at least the things I needed to deal with accountants and understand what I needed to know about taxes and stuff like that to be able to run that business. So yeah, I started dipping my toes in the business world back then. And then I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I ended up getting married. And this was not to Haley. This was to my first wife. And we had a son, and nobody could really help the son, at least not in the medical community. And they said it was colicky, and they said it was first-time parents who were nervous, and that he would outgrow all of this stuff. And he really didn't. What was happening was he would just pretty much cry unless we held him upright in a rocking chair almost all of his waking hours. And then he didn't sleep well at night. He'd wake up every 5 minutes having these night terrors and things like that. And, they don't prescribe anything to children. And so despite all of, pediatrician visits and neurologists and things like that, there was really no one helping us. And somebody said, have you tried chiropractic? And we hadn't. So we tried that. I got laid off from my job at AT&T at that time. And so I was sort of at a career crossroads, and this thing called chiropractic actually ended up really helping my son. Unfortunately, it could not help the marriage, but that's a whole different story. But it did open up the opportunity for me to kind of explore a different career path at that time. It was, I'd always wanted to own my own business, and I had worked in the corporate world. And like Haley, didn't really think that the cubicles, part of your soul dies there. And I was tired of that. And so I was looking for a change. And this was a perfect opportunity to really find a way to help people the way that chiropractors had helped my son, and also to be a business owner, at the same time. So I guess I'll turn it over to Haley for this next part. But what happened was we met in school, we graduated, and we ended up moving back to Colorado, which is where I'm from. She's from Kansas City, and we opened our own practice.
And we opened a practice in a town where we knew no one, and there were very limited spaces, but we found one that really worked for us well. We bought an x-ray machine and found all the furniture we needed. We had our paperwork, and we were all set to open up. We practiced there for 4 years and decided that we were going to move back to Kansas City. So we purchased a practice back in Kansas City. And at the time, we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into, but we rolled with it. We got an associate for the practice in Colorado, and we found an office manager, a massage therapist, and we had grown that practice to be a very solidly run income generating practice. And we plugged the people into it that we found and moved back to Kansas City to run our other practice.
So we had bought a practice while we were out there in Colorado, and it might have been closer to 5 years, I feel like, from 2009 to 2014 when we moved back here. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
That 5 years?
We bought the practice at 4 years, and then...
So that's, yeah. Then we bought another practice in Kansas City, which is where we live now, before we ever lived here, just sort of as an investment. So what ended up happening is we moved back to Kansas City just because now we have 3 daughters, ages 6, 4, and 2, who keep us very busy and keep our house very messy. But they are really like the center of our world. And we had, up until just last year, we kept the other practice in Colorado. And so that kind of gave us a unique perspective. We have started a practice. We have bought a practice. We ended up selling that practice last year. So we've sold a practice. We grew that practice from nothing, built it up. Our main source of patients was referrals. So it was all very community based, and it was built around our lifestyle, which was a family lifestyle.
We also started out cash. So we have that dynamic. We've done cash. We've done insurance.
Yeah, cash and insurance. So we have, experience in that. And then we ended up hiring associates, and then didn't actually end up firing associates, but had associates where it didn't work out. And so everything, ended amicably. But we've been through that process, the hiring process and the contracts and everything related to that. So back in Kansas City, kind of a unique opportunity arose for me to go work at the school that we graduated from, which is Cleveland Chiropractic, which is now Cleveland University. And I was going to do it just part-time. And Haley said, well, why don't you just try full-time and we'll see what happens. So I am there now. I'm now the director of clinical operations there for the clinic that they have. And I also teach all 3 of the business classes. They've been expanded for just a single business course to 3. And I've been hard at work, as was my predecessor, in really making this thing robust and useful and actionable by students. We hear all the time that, they don't teach you that in chiropractic school. Well, that's something they're not going to teach you. And it opens up, unfortunately, a selling point against the schools by a lot of the management companies who say, hey, they're not going to teach you what you need to know in college, at chiropractic school. You should pay us for that. And sometimes they have a lot of great information, and other times they don't. So what my mission is there at the school is to kind of change that. I really want to put things on the map for the students who go there, so that they get a really good, so coming down to that program, they know what they need to do to either get hired as an associate, sign a fair contract, negotiate a fair wage, or go out and start their own practice.
Write a business plan, get funding.
Write a business plan. They're going to graduate having a fully written out, realized business plan that they can go use as something actionable to get a loan. They're also going to come out with their resume completed, and they will have completed a mock employment proposal, which shows a potential, someone who's going to hire an associate. Why should you hire me? Well, here's the things I plan to do for you and your practice. So that's a little bit about us. And over the years, we've come to I don't know, people have reached out to us and said, hey, we're leaving out something we did. We wrote a book.
Yeah, well, it's in the list.
Are we skipping ahead? Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll get to that later. Anyhow, I think you get the idea. This is our background. This is who we are, and this is why we continue to do what we do. And this podcast is part of that.
Yeah, and I think for us, we went to seminars when we were in school. I went with the boss that I had at the time, and Rich went with a friend, and we got to see a lot of those groups. And then when we graduated on our own, we didn't feel like we really resonated with them 100%. So we did our thing. We started on our own. We did what we could. And since then like we said, we started from scratch. We've, had associates, independent contractors, office managers. We've bought, we've sold. And here we are. We want to share those experiences with you.
So in a little bit of my story, because I had a sales background, when I came to chiropractic school, I realized, there's a certain aspect of selling our services. If you can, want to use that word selling, or even selling myself, my ability to deliver those services to my patients. So Haley has the formal business training and comes from a business background, and I had more the sales side of things, but we both came out with our doctoral, what we needed to know to be competent practitioners and adjust well and all of that stuff. So we've sort of turned now into doing some consulting for people. And one of the things that Haley's done is gone out and she recently spoke.
Yeah, I spoke to a group at Cleveland about starting a practice, having a vision, what it takes to build the practice, some of the pitfalls we hit, some of the superpower habits that I think we created to be successful in what we were doing. I've also started coaching clients and assisting new grads and chiropractors in their first year as they set up the systems, navigate insurance, billing, marketing, and communicating with their patients. Yeah,
so if you're listening right now and you're in chiropractic school, reach out to us. Let us know, because we'd love to come out and speak on your campus. We're not there to pitch or push anything. We're just really trying to help chiropractors to do better at business. I always say to the classes I teach, the reason I am there, my strong sense of why am I at the school teaching business as opposed to, if just running the practices? And I really feel like if I can help more chiropractors be successful, they can go out and make more healthy, communities become healthier. Because an out of work, broke, bankrupt chiropractor can't help anyone. And so if we really want to get our message across, and really create healthier communities, it starts with having people who are in that position. So, that's a little bit about our why, and that's why it is that we would love to come out and talk on your campus. So if you know who we should talk to or want us, reach out to us and we'll be happy to see if we can make that happen. So, like I said earlier, we did write a book together.
Okay. The book is called The Chiro Planner. Many of you have found it. It's www.chiroplanner.com. And it's an all-inclusive, there's a planner for starting your own practice, but we've included so many other things in it. We're on our third printing. It's really exciting to get the feedback that we've gotten from students that, pretty much live by it as they're building their practice. They're following the steps. They're setting their goals. They're figuring out who they serve, why they serve them, how they need to set up their website to better attract those people. And then they're using the planner to make it happen for them.
Yeah, it was fun putting that together because it was a resource we wish we had, something like that when we first got going in practice and we didn't. So it's got really step by step, here's what you need to do when you graduate, and then you need a copy of your transcripts, and here's how you get your license. And then you go from licensing to, why can't I think of it? That number, MPI. And then once you get your MPI, if you want to get an insurance, here's how you do that. And there's a whole sequence of things that needs to happen up to and including forming your company and opening the accounts that are associated with that. So we wanted that all there in chronological order, and we have some marketing in there, some of the best tips from our podcast guests that we had, as well as just a whole section on getting organized, figuring out who your end user or avatar is, who your ideal patient is, and the headspace that's involved with all of that. Because, if success was as easy as just following a checklist, then everyone would be successful. But it turns out there's a lot more to that.
And we cover it.
We do. We cover it. So that kept us busy too. We've been doing that. So here we are. We're back. We're doing the podcast again. So what is new with the podcast, Haley?
I think the biggest point about the podcast being new is that we're going to be much more intentional. When we started the podcast before, we kind of were just so excited, and we interviewed this person, that person, talk about this, talk about that. And we were just, and we had just had our third child. We were kind of our asses on fire, just doing what we could to produce content to help people and get it out there with not much intention with it. So we are going to be much more intentional about the people that we're interviewing, the topics that we discuss. We want to cover everything you want us to talk about. So we've already gotten lots of ideas from you all. We really appreciate that. It helps us make sure that we're talking to you. We want to give you what you need to be better, to be more successful, because ultimately we believe everyone should be able to pay back their student loans and thrive and succeed as a chiropractor, and your community be that person that people come to for help.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we're interviewing guests that will add value to your audience, and we really want to give you the tools and experience, at least share the experience that's going to help you go out and run a successful practice and get one opened. When we started 10 years ago, we were evidence-based. We were never really involved in that debate. That's just kind of how we thought, well, at least from our point of view, and we're explaining our how we're going to get a patient better, things we're going to kind of do. It was all evidence-based. The other thing is, because we didn't have much money, we used a whole lot of low or no-cost marketing principles and created relationships within the community. So it was community-based. It was referral-based, which is really the best because it costs the least. It costs your time. But it really helped us build that practice around our lifestyle. So our podcast guests and the topics are going to really reflect, or, be more congruent with how it is that we practice.
And we want to share that with you, because to us, when we look back at why we succeeded and why we could move away from a practice and have it run without us even, near or even going there, was that we really connected with our community, and we built a very solid practice that withstood us even leaving the state. So we want to share with you everything that we did that made us successful, and made our vision come to life.
Yeah, and I think part of that success was, of course, we built those great relationships with the community. And so even though we weren't there anymore, the community and our patients were still very faithful to us. The other part of it was we created systems that I think that even though we weren't there, someone could step into our place and learn our systems and do well. And that's exactly what happened.
And it wasn't about scripts or treating everyone the same or about being in the practice 100 hours a week. It was about living our lives, being congruent with how we wanted to run the office and how we wanted to treat patients.
And so, like Haley said, we're going to do more episodes with us talking about the topics that you have given us your feedback on, that you've told us you want to hear. We also want more of Haley. Before on this, it was pretty much me doing it, and Haley was doing a lot of breastfeeding. And now that is not the case anymore, she's going to come in and give you her perspective.
I want to be heard.
Yes, she does. She wants to be heard. And there's these things cropping up, women's chiropractic groups, and that's what she spoke when she came to campus and spoke on campus, was to a women's group. And so, people are going to identify with her things that they may not identify with me, and vice versa. So she'll be more involved in this going forward.
And we want to have more resources for you guys. If you go to our website now, www.chirobusinessmojo.com, there's 3 resources there. Some student loan tips if you're still in school. And then we have some common mistakes to avoid when you're new in practice. And then we have the third one, and it explains kind of where our history, the core tenets of our practice, which we've termed a lifestyle practice, low overhead, efficient systems, referral built. So if you're interested in any of those, you can go download those at our website now.
So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what is going to be different about the podcast. So what's going to be the same? Well, it's still going to focus on helping the new docs and the experienced docs with the business side of chiropractic. And if you're experienced and you're doing great, you may not even be listening to this because you have all the patients you need and things are going wonderfully. But if you're stuck or, want to hear what some new things that are coming out or working for new practitioners that maybe were not even in existence when you graduated or started, this hopefully is a good resource for you to find out about those things. So we had some people on the show before that were very good and very experienced, but some of the best ideas that we've come across are people that have graduated in the last 5 years who had to go out in today's environment or very recent environment and really figure out the hacks, so to speak, to go out there and open and grow something in the modern marketplace. So we want to have more of those folks on. We had some on before, but we're going to get more of those on this time. But I think across the board, you are still going to get top-notch guests delivering top-notch content.
We would also like to talk to thriving DCs. If you're a chiropractor that's doing well, you have some great systems set up, you're using awesome tools in your practice to be effective and work well, then we want to talk to you. Let us know how you're doing it. How's it going? If you want to help the newer docs and the students, help them come out with the knowledge that you have.
Yeah, let us know. If you want to be on the show, we would love to get you on. So contact us, on Facebook or, we'll give some contact info here at the end. A couple of things we've done. This is the intro episode, but we've already gotten some guests who were kind enough to share their time with us. And they came on. We had a representative from the ACA to talk about some of the things that are going on with the ACA, exciting things that are out there to help chiropractors. We also interviewed Kevin Christie, of the Modern Chiropractic Marketing. He had a lot of good ideas that he shared with people, cutting edge stuff that I think you're going to really enjoy.
Dr. Kevin Christie.
Kevin. Yeah, that's true. He is he's very good at marketing, but he is a doctor.
He's a practicing chiro. He has 2 practices in Florida that are thriving. So if you're interested in that, or sports chiropractic. And then I also, I interviewed, Jennifer Gomm, who's a billing specialist, has been doing it for 20 years. Rich interviewed the one, the only Kathy Mills Chang. We've also have a Hipaa specialist on the list, and lots of social media management. If you haven't been around the last 5 years, you really need to be up to date with all of that for your marketing. And so those are just some of the things we've already covered.
And, sometimes you might be groaning out there thinking, oh, great, compliance, oh, great, billing. But the truth is we leave a lot of money on the table when we don't really understand what it is we're doing, if we're not doing things correctly. And these people are sharing some great info with us on how to really maximize those opportunities. And then the Hipaa Specialist is someone who's developed a tool to help us be compliant online. It really takes, for me, it's a way to take the worry away without having to wonder if you're being compliant. And it's a tool for us to go out and spend our time on, our patients or on growing our business rather than being worried about these other things. So I think you're going to really enjoy that guest as well.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about some of the people we've already talked to is that they've been in lots of practices.
Yeah.
They know what's working. They see it in practice. So I think having that viewpoint from someone who's been in so many different practices is invaluable.
Exactly. I mean, you say, what do you see most often in the practices? And they'll say, oh, we were in 120 practices last year, and here's what people were missing the opportunities on or whatever. So, yeah, you're exactly right. There's great information that those people have access to that the average person, we don't. So I think that's it. I wanted to share one last thing. We did mention that we're doing some coaching, and if you want to know more about that, you can check out lifestylepracticebuilders.com. It's not a whole lot there now because we're just getting it put together, but we're developing some classes that'll be online there and some other resources for you.
Yeah, and there's a button there you can push to set up a strategy call, which is a no pressure call with me. And I dive deep into where you're at now and what you could be doing the next 3 months to get on track to where you're going, your vision for your practice.
Yeah, we've done a couple of those so far and things are going well. So make sure you check out chirobusinessmojo.com. Make sure you rate and review us online for that as well. And
send us a message. We want to know what do you want to hear about, who you want us to interview, what things are you interested in. So this is for you, for the people.
So excited to be back, and we will catch you next time.